Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today we are delighted to have with us Renee Barbier and Roger Valls from Venezuela Universal.
Universal, yeah.
Roger, if you could start off and tell us a little bit about the project, that would be fantastic. And then we'll have Renee tell us about the wines.
Hi, everybody. This is Roger Valls from Venezuela Universal, as Kirk explained. And I want to talk just a little bit about the Priorat and why Priorat and why Montsant region, okay? And we start our projects, Priorat projects in 1989 with the first vintage with Renaissance of Priorat with Clos Mogador and another projects. And in 1999, Sarah began a project in the Montsant area because she was living in Falset, and Falset is the main city of the Montsant appellation. Okay, Montsant is the appellation just around to Priorat, and the distance between the vineyards is very close. It's some vineyards arrive to the border of the Priorat appellation, you know, and the big difference is the soils. Priorat is a big mountain soils, black slate soils, and Montsant is a puzzle of a completely different soils. Okay, we have clay limestone soils, limestone, granitic sandy soils, chalky soils. We have flat areas, higher mountains than Priorat. And when Sarah began the project in 1999, we wanted to show the richness of that soils, okay? We began with Venus Red, and we began with Cariñena, because during the 90s, a lot of Spanish producers were producing over-ripeness wines, super concentrated wines with a high alcohol, and it was so difficult to understand the evolution of the Priorat region in that moment. And Sarah needed to express her ideas about the wine, okay? And she found a vineyards in Falset area, planted in clay limestone soils, and Cariñena is a very good variety to compensate with Garnacha, you know, to blend with Garnacha, because the Garnacha have a high alcohol, Cariñena is a low alcohol, you know, and also the acidity in Cariñena is really good. We started with that wine in 1999, but after we needed to show a soft vision about Montsant appellation, and we found good vineyards, a good Garnacha vineyards planted in granitic sandy soils, and we started the Dido Red project, okay, in 2001, okay? And Renee Barbier Jr. joined at 2003 at project, and he began to produce the wines in 2006, and he introduced the Garnacha on Venus Red because we needed to show approachable wines, and Garnacha helped us to make that kind of approachable wines. Okay. I think Renee, maybe now is a good moment to talk about the philosophy or why we produce Dido Red, or why Dido Red is made with that grapes and with that winemaking.
The first one is made was Venus for Sarah. On the beginning, Sarah was made a wine quite very serious, a little bit reductive. Two grapes very more reductive, like the Carignan and Syrah. What's 99? Remember, before 99, everybody made wine in Privat with Grenache, Cabernet, Syrah, Merlot. But the big star was always the Grenache. And Sarah's made a project with the biggest part was Carignan. That's quite unusual, and especially in that moment. And also made Carignan and quite expensive. Probably Venus in that moment in 99 was one of the most expensive wine in that moment. And with Carignan, that's quite difficult. It was a challenge, no? And that was the beginning. This all Carignan and this Syrah. This is the beginning of the project of Venus. When I arrived in 2006, I start to put Grenache because in my head this blend is so reductive. Carignan and Syrah was very difficult to understand, and I thought in that moment to put a little bit of Grenache was a good idea. Probably I start to make wines more easy to drink in your moment in the beginning, because I remember the first vintage of Venus was very reductive. But now I taste this old vintage. I think, I don't know if I made a mistake, because it's a wonderful wine. The 04 or 3 or 2 is the vineyard from Syrah and Carignan. Was a wonderful wines. But yes, I introduced the Grenache. After something happened, because it was quite general, the Syrah planted in the 90s was died, and not here in Privat too, in many places in the world. Was a big problem for made a very old vineyard with Syrah, and that's also one of the reasons. No, who probably use more and more Grenache in the blend Venus. And today in the last 19 vintage was only Carignan Grenache. That was a very slow process, no? But now the Syrah is not in Venus. The second wine is created from Sarah in 01. The biggest part was Grenache, but a big part also Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah. And that's also we changing, but step by step. And today we are probably, I don't know, 85% is Grenache with a little bit Syrah. I love to blend together in co-fermentation, the Grenache and a little bit Syrah. And I have only 15% between Merlot Cabernet in organic soil. Because we regrafting years and years and years these Merlots and Cabernet. And that was in the beginning. Also, the aging is the beginning of Venus with small barrels. Today is only Foudre, is like 10 times the capacity of the barrels. It's like 2,500 liters. That is the aging for Venus. But for Dido was always in the beginning was in concrete, and also big Foudre, but the biggest part is in concrete. The aging was always long. I respect the fruity wines, but this is not our objective. And I like the very long aging, because I like when it's more complex. No? And the fruit is here, but it's not so intense. And I like this complexity of the aging. Why? Normally all my wines, until the rosé, has a very long aging, and that's also for Dido. No? The Dido was the big part in granite soils, and that's something like remember in the beginning when Sarah's made it this terroir, we thought it's not a big terroir, it's a nice terroir for easy wines. But now we taste the first Didos, and the Didos 01, the Didos 05, and was incredible, nice wine. The granite has a very good acidity, and the wines has less tannins, less structure, but has this acidity is wonderful for aging. Sure, the Dido wines normally is drinking, probably we need to sell, I mean to everybody drink, but it's a very nice bottles for also aging, because the granite soils we discover in the years and years was a very nice soils for this acidity, and the acidity is always nice for aging. What more? Yes, the white. Why the white? I started to make the white because I love made white. I started made white with my father with Nelly in 2000, and when we arrived at the project Venus Universal, the first thing I want to make it was white, and I looked for vineyards for white grapes, and we find a very old Macabeos. What's Macabeo is not an easy wine. It's not grapes for made of very attractive and fruity wines, but we find only some Macabeos and some Grenache, but more Macabeo to Grenache. And I remember the first vintage. I buy some barrels. I rent a fridge and I put the barrels into the fridge and I start the first vintage, so the Dido 7, and was very interesting. The oxidation, the potential of aging of the Macabeo is wonderful. It's probably for me the best grape for put in oak. And it's really nice nice grape for aging and made the wine for aging. No, that was the first surprise. The first idea, the first year made the Dido white. I remember we put I think 3,000 bottles. I don't remember, but few bottles, and it was very good success. The people like, and an idea is to make always the more white as possible. Now I think we made like 25,000 bottles, Roger, yes?
21,000 maybe, yeah.
And
22,000 bottles.
Yes. And you have the opportunity to make more. I want to make more, but well, the only solution now is plant and to wait, because probably I don't know how percent has the white in Montsant, but in Privat I know it's 5% of the appellation. No, I don't know.
Yes.
Montsant. I don't know. You know, Roger?
No, I think it's a little. We have a problem in Montsant because a lot of white vineyards are managed by cooperatives, and a lot of them are taking out the grapes from the appellation. Okay, they are bottling like Catalonia wines or table wines, whatever. But I think we have a little bit more white vineyards in Montsant than in Priorat. Okay, but not all of them are registered by Montsant appellation. That's the problem, you know. We are making a not easy white wine. We are producing and fashion wines. We are producing and fruity wines, but I think Renee tried to explain that at the beginnings Renee produced 3,000 bottles because we will drink just for us, but the successful all the years is unbelievable with this wine, and also that happened with Dido Rosé.
I remember the first. I remember when I sell the first bottles to Mike Miller. I remember I sell more white to the red. I know I have a problem because I have like 10 times more white red and Mike, no, I want more white. I don't have more white. But it was very nice. I remember also when we start to make these whites, we find some grapes very exciting. Like we find a very old vineyard of we call Cartochá, but also Pansal is the same word, or Charelo. We have a different words for that grape. The Catalan grape is only original from Catalonia. And I remember I made some experimental barriques in 11. Only one barrique. And also in 2010, I started to make the natural wines. For me, natural wine is nothing at all, not sulfur at all. That's the idea of natural wines in Catalonia. Not a little bit before bottling or a little bit like the French guys, only no one sulfur. an experimental for no one so far in Priorat, in Montsant, for different grapes, Grenache, Carignan, many grapes. But in the end of the first two vintage, I remember the one of the best wines of these natural wines was this barrique of Cartochat, and it was, wow, this is nice. It was a little bit cherry aromas, but it was wonderful, wonderful. Probably we are lucky. It's only 1 year, and we made a second year, and third year, and after the fourth year, I remember when I start to make the 14 vintage. Wow, with 3 years, the wine is good. Okay, I think it's interesting to sell that parcel, that single vineyard, and in that process, natural wine, or not so far at all. And that's created the Venus Cartochat. Was now 11 to 9. We lose only 1 year, was last year, but not because natural wine don't put so far, because we lose the production in the vineyard. We have a very hot temperature in June, and we lose all the grapes. But in winery, not every year is the same. Probably is the wine more different. Every year is never perfect. Every year have small mistakes, and different mistakes. It's not always the same, but always it's very interesting. And all the team we are something we really like of this wine. Is also maximum 1,000 bottles, because the vineyard is less than half hectare. It's very small, but it's a wine for us very special, the Venus White. The 13 vintage, we made this idea of rosé. I remember Sarah and me before 2010 probably. I think Sarah and me, we never buy rosé, because rosé normally is a fruity, easy wine, and it's not my passion. But I remember we start one rosé of Rosto, very old rosé, and wow, this is possible to make the rosé very complex. After that, we buy a lot of rosé, we drink rosé, very special rosé, and we discover has very interesting rosé in the world. And we made the decision to try to make this idea, no? A rosé very serious, from one vineyard, to try to no fruity rosé, have complexity, capacity of aging, and that's we start to try to find this rosé, no? And we start with Grenache because it's the biggest, is the grape we have more. But in the beginning, we start Grenache, Macabeo, 30%, and a little bit. I think the first vintage was Syrah or Carignan, but we start with that.
Syrah was Syrah.
The first vintage was Syrah. After we changed Syrah for Carignan, and today we have more grapes. We have Grenache, we have Grenache Rouge, Macabeo, Carignan, a big part, and also a little bit Tempranillo, Grenache Gris, Grenache White, a lot of grapes. No, but the three biggest part was these three: Grenache, Macabeo, Carignan, but also the idea of this rosé was long aging. Is the wine, the last Dido is in bottle, normally is between 14 and 15 months aging. We start in a very old oaks, more than 10 years, small oaks. And after, more or less, after the fermentation, 6 months, because all the whites and rosé have a very long fermentation. I like this idea. Why so long? Because we have a lot of alcohol. If you are 14 degrees, 15 degrees alcohol and natural yeast and a cool temperature, but normally that's quite normal, have more than 3 months, 4 months, sometimes more than a year to finish sugar, but that is very long.
But the usual fermentation is 8 months, Renee?
Yes,
more or less.
It depends of every coupage or every vineyard, but more or less when it's the finish when it's finished the fermentation or is near to finish, we blend all the parcels because it's not a single vineyard, and we put in a very old foudre. We buy this foudre in Moselle, and was a 50 years old foudre, and also amphora, 3,000 liters, so very big, from 100 years old, this amphora, and was aging nearly a year more, no? And after we in bottle. This the last The 18 Dido Rosé is bottling like I think 2 months ago. Was the last Dido is in bottle. Okay? Also, this wine. Remember when we start to make this wine, we think about, okay, sure, I want to make 1,000 bottles. Sure, it's possible to sell some freaky sommelier. It was nice, no problem. We made now 12,000 bottles, and I'm surprised. A lot of people drink that, and the people, not only the freaky guys, sure, because it's too much freakies in the world. I think so. They say, the wine is sell it. And I think it's complex, but I think it's beautiful. I think it's not difficult texture, and I think it's one of the reasons this wine is possible to sell, because rosé, expensive, not fruity, it's impossible to sell. No, we sell it, and we're very happy for that.
And this is a super unusual rosé wine from Spain, because a lot of wineries in Spain we respect the fruity rosé wines. We respect a lot, but we don't like to drink that kind of wines, you know. And here in Spain, rosé is to drink during the summer in a pool, sometimes with ice inside the glass, and it's to drink, you know, quickly and without any complication. But that rosé is for drink during the summer, during the winter, autumn, you know, is a complete, when in a blind tasting, a lot of people are saying that that's more close in the aromas expression is closer than white wines, but the extractor is like to the red wines, because the aging is very, very long, and the evolution on the bottle is unbelievable. Now we are opening bottles of 2014, and it's amazing, because as we are not producing a super fruity wine, it's the aromas that we have are more complex. It's like to the white wines. You know, for us it's difficult to drink super young wines, and I think Dido Red is, we found the good way to drink young wines, the young wine, but as Renee explained it us, and now if you can find bottles of Dido Red from 2011, 2010, okay, because we have a big differences between the wines before the Dido Red wine before 2010 and after 2010. Okay, since 2010 we have more garnacha, almost all the vineyards are in granitic sandy soils, and the expression is on the same way. Because before 2010, sorry, the Dido Red was more Cabernet and Merlot. Okay, but that's the idea of Didos, and Didos for us is the expression of the good expression of the young wines, but we cannot produce a wine that the evolution on the bottle is bad. You know, we want to drink old wines from Venus Universal, and I think that Renee forgot to. Well, I think it's not a thing to comment for Renee, but Renee added garnacha to Venus Venus Red, and always Renee say that the best Venus Red wines are produced in 2004, 2005. But I think Renee had a good idea to add some garnacha, because at the beginnings of Venus Reds, anybody understood that wine, you know. And now with garnacha, the people can drink 2016 Venus Red, okay? But on the past, it was impossible. Now we are enjoying the Venus Red. Everybody is saying, wow, Venus Red 2004 is really good. 2005, it's unbelievable. But on the past was really, really difficult to explain that wine, you know. And I think that was the big apportation from Renee for Venus Red, okay, and I think now everybody can drink 2016, and if they want to keep on the cellar more years, doesn't matter. You can age in more time. Okay, it's. I think I had to comment because it's really important. Okay, to understand that.
You about Garnacha, why we made the Garnacha La Figuera. That's you know, guys, the spectacular wines. This is a very good story from my father. My father discovered that vineyard in '04, in the middle of nothing. And La Figuera. La Figuera
Almost a desert area. Yes, it's.
La Figuera is about 80 people in this village live in La Figuera, and was quasi in abandoned, and it's too bad, but there's many hectares was abandoned, and it has a very few vineyards. But when my father and his friends started to make a spectacular, wow, I always think, wow, I want to make also wine in this place, no? And many years I tried to have the opportunity to make wines in this area, many years. And after many years to speak with the cooperative, because all the vineyards was 3 guys from the Cooperativa La Figuera. And I remember in 14, I have I speak with this guy, and I have an idea to because these guys made wine not in bottle. We made in wine in the half. I don't know well.
I never remember.
No bottle, and the idea we heard these guys to make a bottle of wine. It's called Sindicat de la Figuera, but in exchange I rent that vineyard, and we start made that wine from La Figuera. This is a very small vineyard, but it's the highest vineyard. It's not north face like a spectacular, but it's in the plateau. It's top in the plateau in the highest vineyard, and start to make this Venus La Figuera. The surprise, now I made 4 years, 5 years this wine. The very good thing is the vineyard more acidity. Sure, all the vineyards I never vinificate. The Grenache has the same acidity to the Riesling from German, but the wine is quite big. It's not the easy tasting like including the spectacular. No? It's probably one of the vineyards of La Figuera more tight and more probably because this acidity also too. But it's a very good one for aging. But we are lucky we have the same idea of all the Venus. The idea of Venus is always 2 years in bottles before sell it. Dido, no? Dido is I bottle and I sell. But Venus is the philosophy of Venus Carignan. And we made the same idea for Venus Cartochat and the same idea for Venus La Figuera. And we have 2 years in bottle. For Venus La Figuera, for me, it's not enough, but it's better 2 years than nothing. But it's a very good wine also for aging. When I start to make the wine of La Figuera Venus, I thought was the idea more to touch spectacular, but the surprise is we are very neighbor, but it's a very different terroir to spectacular. It's not so old as spectacular. Spectacular is spectacular.
It's unique.
It's unique.
It's unique.
It's the best vineyard in the region, sure. But because also has 100 years old, I know. But this plateau of La Figuera, Venus La Figuera, I'm sure, where is it the beginning? The wine is good, but I'm sure sure in the future was better. I need to learn more about this terroir. I think the potential is incredible, but I think we are in the beginning. We're in the beginning of the project. But we buy a near just the parcel of neighbor, and we want to plant in 1 or 2 years because we are very good. We want to make a very good selection massal from the plants, and in 2 years I want to grow in near 1 hectare more. It's more for my children, but we are very we believe extremely from the region from La Figuera. For me, is for me is the best place in Montsant. The terroir unique, is the altitude, it's very curious. It's only Grenache. Here it's not possible to find nothing more, only Grenache. All the vineyards is 100% Grenache. That's also incredible because normally here is like a cows. It's not like a Portugal, but near. In one vineyard, all vineyard has always like some white, some Carignan, some all is blended. No, here not. We find a spectacular vineyard, 100 years old, 100% Grenache. Okay, that's also interesting to know. That's a figure. We are, I think, start now have some new producer made a very good new wines in La Figuera. That is very nice for La Figuera. I think now has more than between 7 and 10 wines, 100% wines from La Figuera. That's nice. The problem is La Figuera has, I don't know how many hectares, but few hectares. That's the problem. But the superficie of La Figuera is huge. I think it's the biggest superficie in terms of possibility of hectares. And it's possible, why not in the future, to grow more and more and more in that region. It's 400 meters or more, no? Or to 600 meters. That's a big altitude.
The lowest altitude is 400 meters, and the highest vineyard is Guichat. René, correct me if I'm wrong. And the biggest difference maybe is that Venus de la Figuera, that vineyard is called Guichat, the structure is higher and the acidity also is higher than El Spectacle. And El Spectacle you can enjoy earlier than Venus de la Figuera, maybe. Maybe this is the big difference. Okay.
Yeah, in that moment, yes. In that moment, yes, sure. It's true. What more?
What is the soil at La Figuera? What is the soil predominantly? Is it
yes, yeah. In La Figuera, in our soil of Venus de la Figuera, is all white chalk, no? ¿Cómo se llama? White.
It's clay. It's a white clay. It's a chalky. If I'm not wrong, it's chalky soil.
Chalky soil. Okay.
Chalky soil. But it's possible to find in that village many parts of red chalk. And the first vintage in 2014, I vinified some parcels and some pure red and pure white. And it's a very big difference. The white was much fruity and easy and approachable, and the white was much more acid and less fruity, you know. But also it depends on the quantity of the soils. I think it's one idea in Venus La Figuera that the rock is very near, and probably one of the regions was probably more I don't know, more acid, or I don't know. It's not. We don't have the same quantity of learn in much more deep in Spectacle. No, it's small terraces, and we have more terroir. No. Yes, the one thing is wonderful of this region is the quality is great and the quantity is nice. Also, that's nice. Also,
no, but a good thing to know about La Figuera village is, if you are talking with the old growers in La Figuera, they always say that the best vineyards are in the red clay soils. Okay, all of us, we are looking to the fine wine business. And for us, the best vineyards are in the white clay soils, okay? Because the red clay produce a bigger wines, powerful wines, super alcoholic wines in La Figuera. And the white clay vineyards produce the fine wines, the fine Garnacha, the pure Garnacha, okay, with better acidity than the other ones, okay? But we understand them because on the past they needed, you know, a powerful and stronger wines, you know. But for us it's impossible, because if we are coming from South Pyrenees, the warm areas, the natural powerful areas, may you imagine if we are producing a stronger wines or super powerful wines, it's in a in the opposite side that we are looking in the fine wine business right now. But when we
Really sorry, but I think about that. I have a vineyard. I made a vinification on a vineyard, in the same vineyard, right? Few meters, have a part of red clay and white clay, and every year the harvest of the white and the red clay was 2 weeks before the white clay, in the same place. It's true, the alcohol is higher and higher and higher, and I need to pick 2 weeks before the same vineyard, exactly the same vineyard, so few meters. It's true. Only the white clay and the red clay.
It's so craziness. If with Garnacha we have to take care about the alcohol, well, if we have the vineyards on the red clay, it's so crazy because it's we want to produce with we try to find the good ripeness of Garnacha. That's the most important thing in
yes, for me it was
wine.
a challenge to make 100% Grenache. I never made 100% Grenache. My first time was in that project, Venus La Figuera, because normally always I use Grenache with Carignan, with Grenache with Syrah, in Dido, something to help this Grenache has less alcohol. When I sure in La Figuera it's only Grenache, and it was very exciting to make that, but was also very scared. And that's I remember the first vintage. No, the alcohol degree in Grenache. This is the really big problem. No, I learned also with Sarah a lot. I learned to pick a small part, a big part, but one part not so alcoholic to help the other part. Because if you don't want to use yeast, we want to help with nitrogen or many things. If it's too much alcohol, it's impossible to finish the sugar, and that was a big challenge. No? And I now learn. No? And it's only 5 years is nothing. But now I tried to make a pure Grenache also in Priad, no, in Salle Renee, no, and it's quite new because I learned in La Figuera, because we have only one grape, to make a Grenache in this latitude, comme told Roger. And it's very difficult because the Grenache is you can have the possibility to have 18 degrees alcohol. It's never finished. It's always more and more and more alcohol degree, and not very mature. We have 16 degrees alcohol. The stem is totally green, but it will have 16 in alcohol. That's it's not easy. There's a big problem.
Also, sorry, Renee. Another important thing in La Figuera is the highest village, the coolest village in Montsant. We have close to 2 degrees of difference between Falset or Mar Roig between La Figuera. It's close to 2 degrees average temperature, but also is the driest village in Montsant appellation. Okay. Is the coolest village, but also the driest. And that's why Garnacha is working much better than Carignana or another varieties. That's the most important thing, because when we have a super dry year, the variety then can keep much better the acidity, good aromas, good phenols, blah, 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 is Garnacha. Much better than Carignana or another varieties. And we saw that thing last year in 2019, when at the end of June was, Renee, when we had more than 43 days in up to 40 degrees. So one day we arrived at 46 degrees, and Carignana we lost 50, 60, or maybe Renee, you can tell much better how many grapes you lost in
Magnetes, 70%.
In Magnetes vineyard. It's close to 90%. But Garnacha can keep much better the good fruit in the super hot and warm vintages. We just have to take care about the ripeness, about the alcohol. Okay, that's the only problem with Garnacha, because in just 1 or 2 days the alcohol is going up and up, and the acidity is going down and down and down just in 2 days. Okay, you have to take the decision to harvest in very quickly, and that's the difficult thing in La Figuera. Yes, and especially with garnacha. Okay, and
Matthew, 1 hour to speak, Matthew. A lot, eh?
Listen,
1 hour.
Why do I have a subscription problem? Am I off after 1 hour? I don't know. Oh no,
I don't know.
I know we're cutting into your nap time, Renee, but this is fantastic.
No.
Sergio, you had a question, and I think Richard had a question as well. Sergio, why don't you go first?
So, Renee, I have a question. You were versus your father mentality or focusing on reds, and you were like the rebel of the family, creating and focusing on the whites. And I know that Sarah is not a fan was not a fan of the whites or rosés. So my question is, there is only one thing missing to have the accomplice of Venus La Universal, which is to have a sparkling wine. So I would like to know if that is in the back of your head, and if so, which variety will you use?
No, but this is very funny because my father told us 3 or 4 years ago, wow, I am very, very, I don't know, ilusionado. I think a very good idea was why we don't make a sparkling wine Martinet and Mogador together, because it's a very, it's something for celebrate, this union, and why not we made together that one, and wow, sparkling in Privat. But my father's thing always crazy, but always normally has a lot of good ideas, and it's okay, it seems crazy, but I think about that. I think what's the possibility, what's the part, or what's the grapes? And yes, it's here, and I have some ideas. I think one or two visions. We find a place 900 meters with Sarah. We buy. We buy a village also. It's very big with the friends. And it's a terroir 900 meters, but it's not Privat Montsant. It's just near, but it's a very nice place because it's the highest place in the region, 900 meters, wonderful view, north face, argeo-calcaire soils, and here was very easy. It's not far from the Tarragona. Tarragona has the Cartoixà. The very good grape, and also the Chaveros Vermell is like a Cartoixà Vermell. It's like a pinky, a little bit pinky, and that's why not one of the grape is very interesting because it's not exist a Xarel·lo in all Catalonia in this altitude. Nobody has nearly 1,000 meters of Xarel·lo, and Xarel·lo is probably one of the best grapes for make cava. Or I don't know the name now, but it's changed the name very well. But Méthode Champenoise. And that's one idea. The other, why not, is to go to La Figuera, this 600 meters north face. Why not to try to make a rosé champagne, with Grenache? Because normally Grenache is not in the idea to make cava because it's very alcoholic and no acidity. But in La Figuera, the acidity is huge. The alcohol is the problem, because the alcohol, we have also alcohol. But we have a very good acidity, is an idea. And the third idea from that idea of cava, because we want to make, sure, I don't know where, but we want to make something for the family. I don't know if for sale or for only for us or for everybody in the team, but some bottles, sure. Another idea, we find some local grapes, unique grapes of Tarragona. That's also very interesting. 3 different ways for now to think about that. In 2 years, we want to, maximum 3 years, we want to start a small project of that. Yes, but it's I don't know, but it's something very new in our house. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. Richard, did you have a question, or did you raise your hand before?
I did. I was looking back at the notes from the last time we tasted Renee together, and it looks like, and I have the picture behind me as the background, the last vintage of the Blanco I tasted was the 2012, and I looked at my notes real quick, and this would have been 16 that we were tasting it. So I looked at my notes real quick, and even though it was a four-year-old white wine at the time, I remember writing, and I wrote down bright fruit with expressive minerality from soil showing. My question is, has that evolved at all? I mean, has the wine still, are you still making the same style wine? Has that style of wine evolved at all over the last few vintages? Can you give me a description of how you would describe the white without me tasting it in the current vintage?
Yes, I remember I like the whites from the south, and I'm very curious. The hot vintage, like 11 and 12, I love, and that is now I know I like that. But I remember only a few years ago, I have always something like I don't know the word in English, like complejo, which is complejo, complejo. It's the name. Somebody has this name in English?
Complex?
Complex.
Complex.
Yes, like I don't feel comfortable for this so alcoholic wine, too much alcohol in my wine, I have too much alcohol in my wine. But this was part of the region, as part of my white and rosé. Okay, I have alcohol, but I have very nice full body and complexity, and I like. But this in the last years, I try to have less alcohol, okay, and probably in 18. Yes, the wine has less alcohol, but probably I'm sure next 19 I changed it, and 2000 I reback a little bit now to this original idea. Okay, I don't want to make a north white. I want to reback at this idea. We need to look to find the limits, my limits, but of too much overripe or too green, no? But sure, I try to introduce the idea of to have the better balance in my wine, but I lose something. I prefer not have a wonderful balance, but a very good personality. I don't know how to explain me, no? Okay, that's one thing. But I introduce also some grapes like a Cartocha or Imperial. Some grape has the two things. I can to pick in the time I like, but has grapes much adapted on the terroir and probably has in the same condition of same sensation of south, better balance. That's the way for the future long time to have the very good grapes adapted of my idea of point of maturity. Roger, told me.
No, that's Richard. That's a really interesting question because we Renee tried to explain that we felt insecure. We had a lot of insecurities about the Mediterranean white wines. Okay, because the Mediterranean white wines have a high alcohol, and for the white wines, 14% alcohol is a high alcohol. Mm-hmm. It's okay, but the most important thing is the balance. Okay, it's fine for us, not just for whites, also for rosés and reds. The right balance is the most important thing, because if we have the right balance, we will have a good drinkability. Okay, but Renee, now we are drinking and showing 2018. Okay, and in 2018 is a unusual vintage because the temperature of the all year was lower than 17, 16, 19. It's a super unusual. And the wine, the Dido white has 13% alcohol. That's super
never
unusual.
Happened. Never
happened. Dido red have
the year the Texas.
Yes.
The year of the
yes.
Texas.
the year of the taxes. We have to sell that vintage, and it's the year of that. It's super crazy. It's a stupidity.
Your timing was a little off on that, Roger.
No, but that's really important. That's really important, Richard, because in 2019, I asked that question for Matthew, because in 2019 we came back to up to 14% alcohol, okay? And the difference between 2011, 2012, and the last vintages is in 2018, and we are super honest, and we want to explain our mistakes in the winemaking, okay? And we thought that in 2018 we had to bottle earlier than other vintages. We bottled before the new harvest, okay? And for us, the best vintage of Dido White is 2017. 2017 is the best vintage ever, okay? Because it was the first year that we bottled all the Dido White after the new harvest, okay? We bottled after 2018 harvest. We bottled in November after 1 year and before the new harvest, we put all the wine together in a concrete underground soils, so in a concrete vats underground soils, okay, for 3 months. And that was amazing. That's the best, because we have a big vats, 10,000 liters, okay? And 10,000 liters is a low aging in a big tanks with salmon underground in a good temperature. And in 2019 we come back to that idea.
Yes.
Okay, before the new harvest, we'll put all the wine in a 2 big tanks, okay, big concrete tanks, underground soils, and we are thinking that that's the best way to show the Mediterranean white wines and to show the complexity of the Dido wine.
Special for Macabeo, eh? Special for Macabeo.
Yes. But
Because
we
the
put
capacity
all
of
the wine
aging-
together.
Yeah. The aging of that one is very big capacity because it has a lot of Macabeo. And yes, we made the bigger cellar to make this idea. It is true, we have a different ways, but one of the things is true. And this experiment, we started some experiments with 16, we made 2 bottles in 15. After 3 years to compare the bottling in 8 months to bottling in 14 months, always better, 14 months. And in 17, we made that decision. But in 18, we feel that the wine was lighter, and we think, well, no, this year probably is better to bottling fast. And probably was a mistake, because now the wine is better and better in bottle. Okay, but now I'm sure, Roger, 19 is all in November. And now,
no discussion.
It's
impossible to discuss. But also we decided that because we are experimenting with the skin contact, because as you know, and if you don't know, the typical South Catalan white wines we call it brisat wines. Okay, brisat wines is a kind of orange wine without a long skin and contact, okay? And we are experimenting with the skin contact, and in 2018 we used it a little bit more than our yes, the best way. I think we are in 2019 and also in 2020 we will use a little bit less skin contact. We will use maximum 10%, okay, Renee, more or less. If I'm not wrong, 10% skin contact and not a lot of days, maybe between 5 and maybe 10 days. We don't know right now, okay? We are trying every day and we are deciding when in the right moment, okay? But that's why we bottle it before, okay? Because we use it a lot more skin content than the previous vintages. And that's why we bottled it earlier. But it was a mistake. We have to say. But also at the beginnings of quarantine, I opened a bottle of 2018 and I felt relaxed because, you know, I can feel the ideas about Dido White that we have. You know, it's when I'm trying that wine now 2018 is, I can say, okay, maybe it's not the best vintage of Dido White, but is a good Dido White. Okay.
Dido White.
Yes, it's Dido White. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. For those of you who haven't tasted it, it's a great wine. It's been a few vintages since I've tasted it, but the main reason I asked the question is I always keep a notebook through the trips, and I always ask the people I'm with at the end of the trip what their favorite winery, what their favorite white wine was, what their favorite red wine was, and so on. And on our trip, including myself, the Dido White was our favorite white, except for one person. It was number 2 on their list of the entire trip. So obviously you started off doing something well, and I can't wait to taste the more recent vintages.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excellent. Any other questions for Roger or Renee? I know we're cutting into siesta time.